From the very moment the ambulance's sirens echoed through the mansion gates for the third time in a single month, rumors began to spread among the staff that something was terribly wrong with young Clara Montgomery. She was the only daughter of Victor Montgomery, a billionaire known for his sharp mind and cold efficiency, yet completely helpless when it came to the fragile little girl who was all he had left after his wife died years ago. Clara had grown pale, weak, and strangely fearful, waking in the middle of the night screaming, refusing to eat, trembling at shadows, and drifting in and out of fevers no doctor could explain. Every expert physician had failed, every medication had done nothing, and every test came back normal. The house felt cursed, hollow, and frighteningly silent, until one unexpected discovery shattered the truth open like cracked glass. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life. When Maria, the new nanny, arrived, the mansion felt colder than she expected, beautiful, pristine, gleaming in luxury, yet somehow suffocating. Victor hired her out of desperation. She was not the most experienced candidate, but she had the gentlest smile, and Clara seemed to relax in her presence during the interview. Within days, Maria noticed something others had overlooked. Clara didn't simply seem sick, she seemed haunted. The little girl would cling to Maria's arm at bedtime, refusing to let her leave. She startled at every noise. She spoke softly, as though she feared being overheard. At first, Maria blamed the grief of losing her mother at such a young age, but the fear in Clara's eyes was not the fear of loneliness, it was the fear of something unseen. Nights in the mansion were unsettling. Maria often walked the long hallways, checking on Clara while Victor worked late in his study, exhausted and broken by helplessness. Each time Maria approached Clara's bedroom, she felt an eerie chill beneath the warm air of the room. Clara slept uneasily, sheets clenched in her tiny fists, breathing shallowly as though in distress. Maria tried everything: soft music, warm milk, gentle back rubs, but nothing eased the child's nightmares. And the doctors continued to insist nothing physical was wrong. One early morning, after Clara suffered a sudden fainting spell that left Victor in tears and Maria shaken, the nanny decided she could no longer ignore the strange heaviness in the room. She tidied the room quietly while Clara slept, humming softly. As she bent to adjust the edge of the bedspread, a small corner of an old box caught her eye, tucked under the bed, hidden, dusty, and out of place in the immaculate mansion. At first, it seemed like a forgotten keepsake, but the moment Maria pulled it into the light, the air shifted as though the house itself exhaled. The box was old, wooden, and locked with delicate brass hinges. Clara stirred in her sleep, whispering unintelligible words as if reacting to the box's presence in the open. Maria's hands trembled as she slowly lifted the lid. Inside, wrapped in faded cloth, were objects that did not belong in a child's room, or inside any room unblessed by prayer. There was a photograph of an unfamiliar stern-looking woman with hollow eyes, a bundle of dried dark flowers tied with red thread, a small cracked crucifix, and handwritten notes filled with angry words. Maria recognized them immediately. They were remnants of grief, resentment, and heartbreak, items often left behind by someone who carried deep emotional anguish. But why were they here? Under Clara's bed, just then, Victor entered the room behind her, and froze. His face drained of color. He staggered slightly, one hand covering his mouth, as if the air had been punched out of him. Maria glanced up at him, confused, but his eyes were locked not on her. On the photograph. It was Clara's mother. Victor collapsed to his knees beside the bed, trembling violently. He confessed in a broken whisper that after his wife died, he had kept a box of her belongings, items she had with her during her darkest days. Their marriage had not been peaceful at the end. She had battled with depression, paranoia, spiritual fear, things Victor had never fully understood. But overwhelmed by grief, he locked her belongings away, unable to face the memories. When Clara began struggling with her nights months ago, he assumed it was emotional trauma, never imagining something deeper. A former housekeeper, fired months earlier for erratic behavior, had secretly taken the box from the attic and placed it under Clara's bed, believing it would reconnect the girl with her mother's spirit. Instead, it filled her room with the emotional weight of a woman who had suffered greatly, but Maria understood something Victor didn't. Even if one didn't believe in ghosts, children absorbed the energy around them, especially fear, grief, and emotional wounds left unhealed. The box was a silent storm of sorrow, one that Clara had been sleeping inches above night after night. Maria closed the lid gently, carried the box outside, and handed it to Victor. That evening, they took it to Clara's mother's burial site. Victor finally allowed himself to cry, not the quiet, controlled tears he shed in private, but the deep, aching cries of a man who had finally let go of years of suppressed guilt and love. From that night onward, the change in Clara was almost miraculous. Her fevers disappeared. Her nightmares faded. Her pale cheeks regained color. She slept peacefully for the first time in months. And she laughed, softly at first, then freely, like a child rediscovering light after living too long in the shadows. But the one who transformed the most was Victor. He began eating with his daughter, spending time in the garden with her, closing his office doors earlier, smiling more. He thanked Maria repeatedly, but she always shook her head gently. She knew she had simply listened with her heart, something wealth, medicine, and logic had failed to do. As the mansion warmed with joy once more, Maria packed her bags for the weekend. Clara clung to her, giggling as she hugged her tightly. Victor stood nearby, his eyes filled with gratitude that went beyond words. Maria had not only saved his daughter, she had saved him, too. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please like the video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe so more people can experience meaningful stories like this. Before we end, speech balloon, write in the comments, light always finds a way. Because sometimes, that's all a child needs. A little light, a little love, and someone who cares enough to look under the bed.